What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. If by chance you're new here, I'm your host, Max Torres, publisher and lead editor of Ducks Digest, covering the Oregon Ducks for Sports Illustrated on Fan Nation. Today, we are back on the live show here on Oregon Football Max Torres, youtube.com/Oregon Football Max Torres, I should say. If you guys are tuned in live on the show, thank you guys for taking some time out of your day to talk some Ducks with us. Definitely holler at me in the live chat if you guys have comments, questions. I want to hear about it. I can't promise that I'll get to everything, but I'll do my best to answer some of your guys' questions. And whether you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, however you guys are here, we're just happy to have you. Before I get into today's podcast, just had a quick favor to ask of you guys. If you are on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Really helps me, kind of get things going, and it's just a tremendous help to the channel, and I really appreciate it. And then go ahead and lock in on the social platforms as well. Twitter's the biggest one for me right now. Name right there on your screen at M Torres Sports, rather. So now we are gonna get into the pod. I'm rolling solo on this one, so pardon me if I'm a little bit rusty. And have to take a sip every now and then if my throat gets dry. But the Ducks had their 2022 National Signing Day yesterday, made some big noise on the recruiting trail. You have the additions of offensive lineman Dave Yulee from Puyallup. You also have Jordan James, the running back, flipping from Georgia on National Signing Day. That was definitely one of the bigger, more exciting commitments for the Ducks. And then you also had another former commit in Marion Winston out of Central Catholic in the Portland area, hopping back in the fold after a visit over the weekend to Eugene. So the Ducks put some nice touches on the 2022 class. There are still some guys that they are pursuing on the recruiting trail. And I think the biggest ones to watch there, definitely you got to throw Josh Connerly in that conversation. Big time offensive lineman out of Rainier Beach High School in the Seattle area. So, anytime that there's some really talented guys in the Pacific Northwest, the Ducks are going to want to see if they can, stay a little bit closer to home and see and get those guys on the roster if possible. So we know that the Ducks are contenders there, but he looks like he's going to be taking the recruiting process into March. He tweeted the other day that he isn't signed anywhere, and that he's going to be deciding in March, it looks like. So we don't have a specific date just yet, but that's one of the big names that we want to watch here in the 22 class for the Ducks. Other name to keep an eye on is 2022 athlete Arliss Boardingham out of Birmingham High School in Van Nuys, California. Another 2022 target that did not announce or sign his national letter of intent yesterday. He's down to Oregon and Florida, so we have a little bit more direction as far as that recruitment goes. He was on campus for a visit over the weekend, got to spend some time, obviously, with a lot of the commits already in Oregon's 2022 class that were here. Got to take in some hoops, Oregon versus Oregon State. That was an awesome atmosphere to be at. Ducks are back in action tonight. I might add the men's basketball team hits the road to go to Boulder and play the Colorado Buffaloes. They haven't had the best luck in Colorado of late, so we'll see if they can get back on the right track against the Buffs after losing a tough game at home just last week. So go check out the hoops. Graham Metzger has a preview of that game to get you guys ready over on Ducks Digest. So definitely recommend that you check that out and give it a read. But as far as Boardingham goes, there's not really anything super new to report right now. I think, going into National Signing Day, my sources were telling me that Florida was looking like they're in a good spot with him, but I know that Oregon's feeling pretty good too. So that one really does seem like it's been a 50-50 battle back and forth throughout his recruitment. But with the 2022 guys, we got to start talking about, now that we've talked about the 2022 guys, let's talk about some of the 2023s, because that's what's got people really, really excited. Obviously, now that we've moved on and we haven't turned the page completely, right? We're still waiting, like we said, to see what kind of happens with some of those other targets for the Ducks. But now that we're moving on to 23, let's go ahead and talk about some of Oregon's early priorities in the 2023 recruiting class. some big targets that I think they should prioritize. Some of them have already been here on campus. Like I said, I'm not going to get through everybody that I want to today. I'm definitely going to try to go more in depth over on Ducks Digest in a little while, maybe in the coming days here, trying to see if I want to do like an offense or a defense, maybe two separate stories. But just wanted to throw that out there so that if someone you guys want to talk about or thinking about isn't talked about in this video, we'll probably hit on it over there. So give me a sec to share my screen here as we hop into this podcast and get some stuff going. So quarterback, that's got to be the absolute biggest need for the Ducks in the 2023 class. I don't think anybody is going to deny that. If you look back a little bit, 2022 rather, the Ducks had Tanner Bailey out of Gordo, Alabama in the fold for quite some time. And then after Mario Cristobal took the Miami job, he decided to reopen his recruitment and has since ended up at South Carolina, which also got Spencer Rattler. If you want to think about the transfer portal and how crazy that's been through the offseason and throughout the recruiting calendar. So that's going to be interesting to see how their quarterbacks shake out. But the Ducks bring in Bo Nix, so they now have 3 quarterbacks on the roster as it stands. Bo Nix coming over from Auburn. Robbie Ashford transferred to Auburn. So they kind of traded quarterbacks there, if you want to call it that. Ty Thompson coming in from the 2021 class. A lot of people, had high hopes as Duck fans that he was going to see the field early. And then you also have Jay Butterfield, who came in the 2020 class. So lots of good options for the Ducks on the roster. But as you know, you got to keep planning ahead. And quarterback has to be the priority here in the 2023 class. So I have this graphic up on the screen if you guys can see over on YouTube. The top 10 quarterbacks, according to Max Preps. Max Preps does a lot of great work. I think that you guys should definitely check out some of their stuff as far as rosters and rankings. They do a really good job of ranking the top schools in the country. But let's read through this list real quick, and I want to focus on the top 5. Arch Manning. Arch Manning is a really interesting situation, I feel like, out of Newman High School in New Orleans. And I say it's interesting because he's one of the biggest recruiting dominoes that I think we've seen on the recruiting trail in quite some time. It feels like a lot of these schools are, waiting to see what happens with Arch Manning. And then I think we'll see a lot of other quarterbacks, find out where they're going to go kind of from there. So he's ranked number 1. And then you have Malachi Nelson out of Los Alamitos in Southern California. He's committed to USC. He was one of the first guys to commit to Lincoln Riley at USC, him being a former Oklahoma commit, in line with Caleb Williams transferring over to USC rather. You kind of thought it was a matter of when, not if. So Malachi Nelson, going to the Pac-12, and then Dante Moore from King High School in Detroit, Michigan. That's a 5-star talent. He's uncommitted. And then you have Nico Iamaleava from Warren High School in Downey, California, also uncommitted, another 5-star prospect. And then rounding out the top 5, you have Jaden Rashada out of Pittsburgh High School in Northern California. And I want to focus on those 3 through 5 because all of those guys were on campus this past month. Now that we're in February, all those guys were on campus here in Eugene in the month of January. So that was another thing that I thought was interesting about the recruiting strategy and just the finish that Dan Lanning and the Ducks were able to, kind of put the finish that they were able to have on the recruiting trail as we're now in a dead period. They had a lot of their top guys in 2022 getting on campus, but they also were smart enough to get a lot of top 2023 targets on campus as well. More Nico and Jaden were all really big people to get on campus. But a lot of people want to talk about, the bottom 2 with Nico and Rashada. Nico posted some really cool visit pictures. And I tweeted about it just a little bit ago. So let me see if I can find it, and then we'll go back to this picture. So give me just a second. So this is from Jordan Anderson, a wide receiver who's teammates with Nico out at Warren. I thought these were really cool uniform combos, and I love how the staff, really gives the recruits the freedom to kind of just do whatever they want. Mix and match different uniform combos. And you see Nico, the quarterback there on the right, really tall dude at 6'6". He's rocking, the Mariota 8 from the pick uniforms that were debuted against Washington in 2015. I remember I was at that game, and he's also rocking it with the Ohana helmet. So I thought that was a really cool uniform. Might look a little bit strange to people, but definitely get in the comments and let me know what you think about this uniform combo. I thought this was a really big one, a really interesting look. And I feel like with Nico, a reason that he's a big target is a lot of Duck fans are going to remember DJ Uyunglele, the current Clemson quarterback out of St. John Bosco in the 2020 class. The Ducks really pulled out all the stops to try to get him to come to Oregon. You'll remember that Marcus Mariota was on, I believe he was on campus, as was Dennis Dixon that weekend, just, to try to kind of deliver that final pitch to him. But he ended up at Clemson. So, you have another Polynesian quarterback and Nico who, loved his visit from what I've been told. So I think the Ducks are in a great spot there. I haven't talked to him, so I don't want to go as far as saying that I think that Oregon's the favorite for Nico right now. That was one of the questions that we got from Jake. Do you think Oregon's the favorite for Nico? I don't know if I'd say the favorite, but getting him on campus right before the dead period is absolutely huge. Because, we're seeing more and more these guys are committing early. I think Notre Dame has the top class in 23 right now, and they have like 8 guys. So even when Mario Cristobal was here, I said that the Ducks had in order for them to kind of get where they need to be as far as national relevance, they need to be doing really well with the current class, which at the time was 2022, but also push ahead into 23. So I think that the Ducks are in a good spot here with Nico for sure. Maybe we can get some highlights from Nico up on the screen here. Just give me a second so that we can kind of see the guy that we're talking about here. All right, let's see if this loads. Just give me a second here. Okay, so not everybody's huddle is super updated, but he's got a little 4-minute clip here. So I'll go ahead and put it up here. So give me a second. So yeah, I think this is big. Probably one of not the biggest targets for Oregon right now in the 2023 class. Just seeing how they've brought in some good quarterbacks, but I think the discussion around the quarterback is really an interesting one because they really haven't gone with one of their own that they recruited since Justin Herbert was here, right? And I think that even that situation, you can't give Oregon too much credit there because it was really just because Dakota Prukop, who was a transfer, really wasn't panning out. And Herbert had to come in that Washington game, talk about getting thrown into the fire. That's definitely an ugly situation for the Ducks to find themselves in. But you look at Nico here, he really can do it all. He's mobile in the pocket. He has a rocket of an arm. He can improvise. He can make all the throws. And what a statement it would be for the Ducks to get him on board early. I think that's another thing that's super important with the quarterback position when you're talking about the recruiting implications. We were talking with just a couple minutes ago about Arch Manning and how important it is for college football to see where he goes, because I think he'll kind of be a recruiting domino of sorts. So this is big, obviously, because you want to get your quarterback. And also, if you look in the recent years at top quarterbacks in Southern California, a lot of them aren't playing football in the Pac-12 or even on the West Coast, right? You look at JT Daniels, who went to Mater Dei. He went to USC and then he got hurt, ended up at Georgia. I think he's in the transfer portal again now, which is interesting. But then you have Bryce Young, who was also at Mater Dei. Now he's at Alabama after formerly being committed to USC. DJU is over at Clemson now. So you just keep seeing a lot of these top quarterbacks from Southern California, which is a hotbed for elite quarterbacks and other skill positions, leaving the Pac-12 footprint. And I think if Oregon wants to get better, obviously, and the Pac-12 wants to get better, you got to keep some of those guys close to home. So that's why it's big for the Trojans to have Malachi Nelson in the fold, as we talked about him a little bit earlier. But I know that, with Nico, the Nike connection is huge. I remember when I wrote the story that he was going to be visiting. I think I saw someone either on here or on the forums or somewhere, maybe on Ducks Digest or somewhere else, that was saying, you got to get this guy in an Ohana uniform like right now. And he did take some pictures in the Ohana uniforms, which was really cool. I just feel like that's another example of such a unique touch that Oregon puts on not only the recruiting process, but just, the attention to detail, with their uniforms. Some people want to knock Oregon and say that, oh, you have a million uniform combinations out there in Eugene, but no national championships. I mean, if you're a Duck fan, you've heard all of the the slander in that regard. But if you're Oregon, how would you not utilize that? Why would you not leverage that to your advantage? I think that's a tremendous asset for Oregon. You got Kenny Farr over in the equipment room, just helping make sure a lot of these visits go really well. I think his part and role in the recruiting process is pretty underrated, and just making sure that all these guys, once they get to Oregon, they stay dripped out in the best gear. So I'm trying to do a little bit more digging and kind of hear more about how this visit went, maybe talk to Nico. I have a recent story up on Ducks Digest where, Sports Illustrated talked to him at Battle Miami when he got to also take a recent visit out to the University of Miami and hang out with Mario Cristobal and take in that campus in Coral Gables. So there's going to be no shortage of, big time offers coming in for this guy and big time battles for him as a prospect. So he's definitely a guy that you got to keep an eye on if you're an Oregon fan. Getting back, getting that Southern California pipeline churning again is going to be huge. The Ducks lost Tyrone McMillan out of Servite in Anaheim last year. So definitely want to, be going back to that pipeline to get some guys out of that area in this 2023 class. So another guy I want to talk about is Jaden Rashada, because he's another quarterback that I think Duck fans should really have their eyes on in the recruiting process. He was another person that was another player rather that was out here, not too long ago looking at the Ducks, and they're in a great spot. I mean, you talk about Kenny Dillingham being one of the new guys that Dan Lanning brought on to his staff, and he's going to be working with the quarterbacks as well. So he's going to be really crucial in the recruitment of any quarterback. And when I was talking to Rashada after his trip, he really highlighted his relationships and time with Kenny Dillingham. Just, he was saying that he really liked getting on to, getting on the chalkboard and talking football with him, which at the end of the day, you got to be able to do as a recruit. You want to have a guy with a high football IQ at quarterback leading your offense. And Rashada is definitely one of those guys. He's got one of the smoothest throwing motions, I think, out of, any quarterback you'll find in the country. And, he's definitely been, I don't know if linked is the right word, but there's definitely been that interest with Oregon for quite some time. I mean, look at just the way that he adjusts on the fly, the way he's able to move in the pocket and still keep his eyes downfield, I think is so valuable. He's got the deep ball, which is something that has been lacking in this Oregon offense. You talk about the 2021 season, just how limited they were by the play of Anthony Brown at quarterback. He had a bunch of really great plays, but most of his good plays came with his legs, which ultimately isn't something I think that you want in your quarterback, right? You want a guy that can really dissect the defense and do his damage with his arm. But another cool note about Rashada is he was former teammates with Jay Butterfield, who's here at Oregon. So anytime you can have those relationships, recruiting is definitely a science of relationships. So I think that's working in Oregon's favor to have a guy like that here. I know for Rashada, he released his top 10 not too long ago. So let me see if I can pull that up and, kind of list off some of the schools that we know to be involved with Rashada at this point in his recruiting process. All right, it's loading up here. So just hold on for a second and enjoy the highlights while I look this up. All right, so top 10 for Jaden Rashada dropped on Christmas Day last year. The schools that we have involved here: UCLA, Arkansas, Oregon State, Washington, Oregon, Auburn, Oklahoma, Arizona, Penn State, and Arizona State. Arizona's been doing really well on the recruiting trail under Jed Fish, so I think they're kind of someone to watch. Maybe not for Rashada, but just in general. Some of my sources told me that we might see Alabama hop in and throw an offer out for Rashada. So, that's another school that if Oregon wants to get Rashada, ultimately you're going to have to go up against the likes of Alabama. potentially, right? If we see that offer indeed materialize, but that's just kind of a note to keep an eye on here as the recruiting process, turns the page onto the 2023 guys, and you look at the mobility that Rashada has, and the way that he can extend plays and do damage with his legs is great. I think he's 6'4", 6'5", got that tall frame that you want from a quarterback. And he's just really fun to watch. I just think he's got a really smooth game. And Pittsburgh, we're talking about Pittsburgh and, other guys to watch. One of his teammates, Rasheed Williams, recently got an offer when Kenny Dillingham and the Ducks stopped by his school. Dan Lanning was also at Pittsburgh, and that was the week following his visit to Oregon, right? And I think that you just want to get those guys, get as much face time as you can with those guys. And Oregon's staff has been absolutely relentless on the recruiting trail, just going out to see people, build those relationships with coaches, and obviously strengthen their relationships with recruits. One last thing to add about Rashada, and then we can kind of move on from quarterback right now. He's a guy who wants to kind of move the recruiting process along a little bit. He was telling me that, Oregon's in a great spot to get an official visit from him. He wants to take his official visits in the spring. And it was important to him to, kind of not get it over with, but take those official visits and then just get it going, because he knows how quarterbacks can kind of be the face of a class. And, once you have that quarterback in place, then you can really, use that to your advantage. Hey, if I'm Oregon, it's like we have a top quarterback in Rashada or Nico, for example, who we were talking about. And you want to be able to say, hey, you want to catch touchdown passes from him. You guys want to pursue a national championship with this guy. Kind of just more going off of how, quarterbacks such a big position of leadership, excuse me. So Rashad's a baller, definitely one of the top guys on Oregon's board, without a doubt. Been on campus multiple times. He also came out, we had that recent unofficial visit, and then he came out for one of the games in the fall. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but when he came out, that's when he got offered. So it's good that the new staff is, not wasting any time, and he's they're prioritizing the quarterback spot. All right, we're going to move on to running backs next. So I'm going to pull up some film here, and then we're going to just move on to running back. All right, this name is going to be a familiar one for Duck fans, especially if you've been following recruiting for a while now. We are talking about Roderick Robinson. He is a running back in the 2023 class. There he is, out of Lincoln High School in San Diego. Lincoln High School, obviously the home of two signees in Oregon's 2022 recruiting class. Now we should call it signing class, because they have put the pen to paper. That is cornerbacks Jaleel Tucker and Jaleel Florence. And Robinson's going to be a top back in the country without a doubt. When you look at him, he's a bigger back. I think his Hello profile listed him at 6'2", 220. And he was originally born in South Carolina, I believe is what he told me when I last interviewed him. So, he's got that, SEC frame, and he came over and has done nothing but, put on in San Diego, which is an area that I think doesn't get enough credit on the recruiting trail. People want to talk about Southern California. They're so quick to latch on to Los Angeles, but there's some really good talent in San Diego. And the Ducks have brought in recent running backs out of Southern California, right? A lot of them, really. You look at Travis Dye, who has since transferred to USC, closer to home for his last year. You think about CJ Verdell from Chula Vista. Let's see what else. You got Sean Dollars out of Modern Day. He also went to Rancho Cucamonga. So, Southern California has been a hotbed for sure for the Ducks and finding their running backs. But he's so quick. Roderick Robinson's so quick for his size, and he's getting better at catching passes out of the backfield. This is a guy that you can definitely feel comfortable in blocking for the quarterback if you put him in the back there. And he's really quick. Accelerating, I think that's another thing that stands out to me as we watch his tape here on Huddle. So that's awesome. You definitely want to have some of that there. And I'm trying to think of some other schools that he's been out to see. I know that he was at Arizona recently. So I'm not trying to hype up Arizona too much, but there's definitely something that Jed Fish is doing right out there. out there in Tucson, getting these guys excited and creating a lot of excitement around the program and bringing in some elite recruits and, ultimately landing some. And I don't know how strong they're going to be next year per se, but I think when you look at their roster and how they've been able to add some big time players, they're going to surprise some people and maybe win a couple games that they weren't favored in. So definitely excited to see what kind of product they can put together there. But yeah, as for Robinson, you got to figure if you're Oregon, you're in a good spot there. You got former Duck Akili Smith, I believe, is on staff there at Lincoln, and Robinson's only going to get better. So it's really important that the Ducks are in on a guy like Robinson early in the recruiting process, because it's only going to help them more, hopefully get him back on campus. Like, this is a guy that I could easily see, you want to get him prioritized on campus for the spring game, which Dan Lanning told us this week is going to be on April 23rd. So if you want to look at the recruiting calendar, that's definitely going to be a big name for the Ducks to keep an eye on. All right, let me see what other names that we want to talk about here in the 2023 class, and we'll just keep this thing rolling. The next guy that I want to talk about is Jaden Lemar. He's a guy from Lake Stevens High School out in Washington. Super, super fast guy. Was recently on campus for a visit. So, I think when you talk about guys that were here on campus for visits, I think it just shows you that Oregon definitely has a good chance with them, because we're seeing some of that mutual interest, right? You're seeing that they're getting out here and they want to take in what Oregon has to offer. And, another local guy out of Washington. So Washington's really on the rise, I think, especially in that kind of Seattle area. You look at the FSP 7-on-7 and training program, Ford Sports Performance, that they've got some absolute ballers in this 2023 class. So since we're staying on offense, talking about the running backs, I know Lemar had a lot of good things to say about the Ducks when he came out to visit, not too long ago. I'm going to see if I can actually pull up my interview with him and give you guys a little bit more insight into his recruitment and kind of what he's liking about Oregon. He's a 5'11", 185-pound running back, and he's a super versatile guy. And, the biggest thing for him was really just getting out to Eugene to meet the new staff. And he was talking about how he really liked meeting Dan Lanning and, how awesome it was to, have the young guys on this staff. He was saying that there's a lot of young guys too. I love that. They can relate to me really well. And that the staff did a good job of laying out, their vision for the future of Oregon football and how they're going to get there. So Lanning was a guy that he really enjoyed talking to. Said that, when you're talking to him, it doesn't feel like you're talking to a superior. It feels like you're talking to a peer. And, just really making sure that you come off as genuine and you have those genuine interactions and you can just have conversations with your head coach. That's big for Lemar. And then you look at Lachlan, and he's the new running backs coach here. And it was more of the same. Reading some quotations from the story on Ducks Digest, he's kind of in that same boat. He puts everything straight to you. When he's saying something to you, he means it. With them, it's more of a feel thing. With Locke and Coach Dan Lanning, you always know. You can tell by the way they're speaking to you that they'd never lead you on. So, the Ducks staff is already doing an awesome job. The Ducks staff is doing an awesome job with these recruits that are coming on campus, and obviously with Lemar. Got some recent offers to update you guys on. He got an offer from Louisville, Boston College, and Cal recently. But the family atmosphere is really what is driving Oregon kind of up on his list. And as far as what's next for him on the recruiting trail, he's a guy that's looking like he's in the similar vein of Rashada, trying to get those official visits set up. And right now he's working on setting up an official to Notre Dame. And then it looks like Oregon's going to get one of those official visits too. So Ducks are really putting themselves in an awesome spot with some of these guys in 2023. I really like how tough Lemar runs. I think that's something that really stands out to me so far watching his film. And I think he's going to be another guy to watch here. Got to be a priority target for the Ducks. Just seeing that he's already had a previous interest in Oregon, and I think this is another guy you can kind of pick up where the previous staff under Mario Cristobal left off. If I'm Dan Lanning on this new staff, so. Lemar is just a bruiser for sure. And he's, very, very quick. I'm trying to get a little bit more in depth on my analysis. So, just watch more film. You see all these guys literally just bouncing off of him as we're watching film here. And there's you don't have to, look too much to look too far to see why he's a baller. Let's see, who else do we want to talk about here? I'm going to talk about, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball and talk about some guys there. And I'm going to get some tea after this. So once I get these highlights pulled up, we will move on. How's everybody doing? Hopefully everyone in the chat is having a good day. Kind of sun's almost a little bit starting to set here in Eugene. Beautiful day. Got to take a run, which is awesome. Just get outside, get some of that fresh air. Went to a local school out here. I live pretty close to campus, so it was nice to just kind of get out there and hang out. All right, Gerard, thanks for stopping by. I see you in the chat. This was actually something I meant to hit on earlier. So before we get on the next guy, let's talk about this. This was a 2023 story until this morning. Thoughts on 5-star Lebus Overton reclassifying to 2022 and listing us in his top 5. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here so you guys can see who we're talking about. So here's the news. 5-star defensive lineman Lebus Overton from Milton High School in Alpharetta, Georgia. Looks like he's going to be reclassifying from the 2023 to the 2022 recruiting class. I think that this is definitely a significant development for Oregon. You look at the teams that they're going to be going against. Yeah, Christopher, we're hitting on that right now with Lebus. So hopefully we can. Hopefully this is a guy that Oregon can kind of get. Obviously is in the mix for, right? But you're going up against the likes of Georgia, so you're going to have that in-state presence to go against Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Ohio State. I feel like, again, a lot of this has to be the Dan Lanning factor. You look, this has got a guy that Lanning, I'm assuming, probably recruited while he was at Georgia. I can't say that for a fact. But seeing that he's a top in-state guy, there's no doubt that he was probably involved with him at some point before he came over to Oregon. And I think the fact that he's along the defensive line is awesome. If you look at Oregon's roster, I don't think that there's necessarily, I feel pretty good about the defensive line right now, especially along the interior for Oregon. But there's definitely that need at edge rusher, right? And at 6'4.5", 265 pounds, I think that Overton could be a guy that the Ducks could potentially use in that kind of a capacity. So let me see if I can get some highlights on him and then kind of give some more thoughts as to what it means for Oregon and where maybe the Ducks where they stand. Let's see here. Just want to give some insight and kind of give some thoughts on what kind of a guy we're looking at here. Okay. This is okay. This one's 3 minutes. Some of these guys don't post like super in-depth ones for like the whole season. So just try to find a longer video so I don't have to hop back and forth. But man, you see the class that Texas A&M is building here in 2022. It is absolutely insane. I think it's going to go down as the top signing class ever. And I think that's obviously notable. You think about guys like Shamar Stewart committing to Texas A&M yesterday, Anai White, another guy out of the Philadelphia area. Oregon was after him. You see here on the tape how Overton's just overpowering the offensive line. And getting to the quarterback there for that sack. And then Georgia, I mean, you can't count Georgia out for any top in-state guy, right? And the Ducks would love to get a guy like this out of the state of Georgia and over Georgia after they just got Jordan James yesterday, flipping his commitment from Georgia to Oregon. That was obviously huge. And I think after yesterday, it's hard to deny, it's almost impossible to deny that the Ducks are hot in the recruiting trail. This would be a massive get for Oregon because of the need for a guy that can rush the passer along the defensive line after Kayvon Thibodeau headed off to the NFL draft. And that's not a guy that you can typically find in the transfer portal, right? If you're looking for an edge rusher. And I think with Overton's size, maybe he doesn't fit so much that traditional edge rusher, but you can clearly see that this guy can get to the quarterback and cause some disruption in the backfield. So Georgia, I'm sure they're going to give him that pitch. This is you're an in-state guy, come play for the home state school. They just won a national championship, and there's no better recruiting tool or recruiting pitch than winning. So I think that's super notable. Oklahoma with Brent Venables coming over from Clemson. I think he's obviously one of the smartest defensive minds in all of college football, and Oklahoma's off to a very good start under Brent Venables on the recruiting trail as well. I already talked about Texas A&M. So I think the last school to talk about as far as the competition that the Ducks find themselves going up against is Ohio State. On the 247 Sports rankings, they finished with the number 4 class in the 2022 rankings, number 1 class in the Big Ten with an average rating of 0.9395. Kind of just getting to know a little bit of their class some more here. They do already have, 2 top-tier edge rushers or edge guys with Kenyatta Jackson out of Chaminade Madonna Prep in Florida. And then you also have Amari Abor out of Duncanville. Cameron Williams out of Duncanville. That's a name I'm sure Duck fans know. But this is a huge target for the Ducks. And maybe this is why maybe we didn't see them. Maybe this is a guy that they've been working on. I think with Marion Winston joining the fold yesterday, I think that he's a guy with a lot of potential. Sure, I don't know if I see him as an instant impact kind of guy or someone who's going to be playing super early for the Ducks, but I think that he's a guy that can help you kind of shore up the depth there at that edge spot. But man, I mean, is he really running this in out of the Wildcat? I mean, let me run that back for a second. That was absolutely insane. I think. Yeah, look at this. If you're recruiting a defensive lineman that's running plays out of the Wildcat, that just gives you the sense of the kind of athleticism that Oregon is looking at here and coveting. So I think really to give my thoughts here, that you see him hit his little dance after the touchdown. I think my kind of thoughts, again, I don't have any intel on him specifically. This is a guy that Oregon would obviously love to get. It would be a huge statement for Dan Lanning and his new staff, but I think that Georgia's probably viewed as one of the favorites here, Gerard, in response to your question. And then, plenty of top tier schools that the Ducks are going up against. So will definitely be an interesting guy to follow in the recruiting process now. So another guy that I wanted to talk about here is 5-star defensive lineman Jaden Wayne out of Lincoln High School in Tacoma, Washington. This is a name that it's kind of, for me, it feels like the Oregon fans have known about him for forever, right? It's a local guy out of Washington, big time talent. He's been to Eugene I want to say at least 5 times at this point. So Oregon's right there on his radar. I've talked to him multiple times throughout the recruiting process, and he recently dropped the top school list. So let me pull that up so I can rattle those schools off for you, so we know who Oregon's going against in his recruitment. Let's see. Okay, so Jaden Wayne, a 5-star defensive end in the 2023 class, is down to 11 schools. This tweet coming from on January 26th. A lot of really elite programs in the mix here for Wayne. Starting off with Georgia, we got Georgia, Auburn, Michigan State, Texas, USC, Washington, Alabama, Miami, Florida, LSU, and the Oregon Ducks. So I think that the Ducks definitely have a great chance to get Wayne in the fold, just on the fact that they've had him on campus so many times, right? I think that's definitely always going to be a factor. Seeing that geography is finally on Oregon's side for once, it feels like that's almost never the case, right? If you followed recruiting, that that's not always the case for the Ducks when they're trying to get these elite playmakers in town. So I'm pulling up my story that I wrote on his recruitment. Obviously we talked about edge rusher and how that was a need for Oregon on the recruiting trail. Definitely running out of time to fill that void in 2022, but there obviously is still a little bit of time before summer, and we even saw last year with JT Tuimoloau how long he dried out the process. But I think when you have a guy that's close to Eugene, you got to try to do everything in your power to get him. You know how big of a get this would be for Oregon, especially under Dan Lanning. I mean, just having another a huge defensive recruit for Oregon to build its defense around, right? It's kind of crazy to think about, but this is probably your last year with Noah Sewell, who's kind of the face. He's going to be the face of the defense, I feel like, heading into 2022. Him along with Justin Flo. Hopefully that guy can stay healthy and we can see him, playing with Sewell. And with Jaden Wayne, you see the impact that he has off the edge, able to impact the game in the run game and the pass game. And then he's getting a lot of snaps at receiver here when he's playing on offense. And I think that's one of the really fun parts about high school football is so many guys play on both sides of the ball. So you just get to see their athleticism, used that much more. And I think it gives you a good idea of how quick he is. The fact that he's playing wide receiver and he's able to make plays in space, go up and grab the ball. They're using him on a lot of screen plays here. Just trying to say, go up and get it. So I don't think that too many schools are probably looking to have him on the offensive side of the ball. But, you heard those schools that I rattled off. And there's no shortage of competition for the Ducks. I know that he was recently in Miami. Obviously, you see again, Mario Cristobal built that relationship up at Oregon, and he's using that to his advantage, getting Wayne all the way across the country to come in for a visit. And then I think Alabama was also another school that was involved. And I know North Carolina is another school that he's trying to get out to. That was actually why he came to visit Oregon, because his flights to North Carolina got canceled. But to just give you guys a better idea of kind of what he's liking about the Ducks, I think what really impressed him was the staff that he was able to meet here, and Tosh Lapoy was one of them that really stood out. When I was asking him what stood out the most, he said the coaching staff, the DC Tosh Lapoy and me talked a lot about football, and this with Lapoy being the defense, he's the defensive coordinator, and then you also have Tony Tuioti coming over from Nebraska to coach the defensive line. Those are two guys that are definitely going to be involved for Oregon with their recruitment rather of Wayne. And then you also look at who am I trying to say here? At Dan Lanning, obviously. How is the head guy not going to be involved? I think that's another point that we can make here is that Oregon. I think that was one of the things that made Mario Cristobal so successful is that he was personally involved in so many recruitments, especially on the visits. I think when these guys got out here and they got a bunch of FaceTime with a variety of Oregon coaches. So I think that's something that Dan Lanning can really do is, be involved personally in this recruitment. And I know that, we're seeing Dan Lanning in commitment videos and photo shoots. So I think that he's definitely already intent on carrying that part of the recruitment through. So I know that Wayne was saying that he's probably going to come back for another visit. I'm trying to see when it looks like they're going to be doing that. Let me see here. So he had a lot of good things to say about Dan Lanning. And this was kind of a cool question. I was like, why is Oregon, a legitimate contender for you? And he said, I can represent a big brand like Nike. I can be around teammates and coaches that want to win a natty. I feel really good about the coaches. So again, really another important recruit for the Ducks to get on campus early. And then let's see what else. When I talked to him, he said he was going to go visit USC as well as Washington, being the local school. So that'd be a big guy for the Huskies to get with how dreadful their recruiting's been of late. I mean, that's just what it is. They just have been doing terrible on the recruiting trail. So that's what I have to say about Jaden Wayne. And wow, we are already at 45 minutes but there's another big name that I want to talk about that was also on campus recently. So I'll pull up his highlights and we'll just keep rolling on. If you guys are watching here on YouTube, thank you guys so much for stopping on by. Looking at some of the comments here real quick. Mikey G said he's doing awesome after yesterday. Duck Nation has a lot to be happy about. Man, that's true. I think getting those former commits back in the fold, flipping Jordan James is definitely a lot to be excited about. Dave Yulee might very well have the coolest commitment video of the guys that committed yesterday or just have committed to Oregon. Really liked those. Chunky Monkey, what's going on? You're a regular here. Thanks for stopping by. Chunky Monkey says, I'm super excited, especially after Oregon's National Signing Day show yesterday. I watched it several times. I totally agree. If you guys haven't watched that, go over to the Go Ducks YouTube channel. Joey Mack did a great job interviewing everybody on Oregon's coaching staff. You got to meet, Carlos Lachlan, Junior Adams. Who else did we get to talk to? Tony Tuioti, Demetrius Martin, Coach Meat. You see him with all the yee-yees over on Twitter is kind of his thing. So that was really cool. Let's see what we have here. Breezy says, landing hitting the haka was gold. That's referring to Dave Yuli's commitment video. I know I retweeted that yesterday on my timeline somewhere. So if you guys are looking for that, you can find it on my Twitter page. Gerard says, don't forget to say program. Thank you for the reminder, Gerard. We are a program podcast here at the Ducks Dish podcast. Now that Dan Lanning is the new leader of Oregon football. But with all of that being said, let's see if I can find the highlights for our next guy. Okay, here we go. Give me a second here. All right. Next guy I talk about is St. John Bosco, tight end, defensive end, Mateo Uyunglele. And I think the biggest thing to know about Mateo, I got to see him in person when I went out to St. John Bosco during the summer last year. That was when I was down for Pac-12 Media Day. And just to see this guy in person was crazy. He really looks like a man amongst boys when it comes to the high school scene. Really, really elite athleticism. You see the difference he can make, as a pass catcher on offense. Just get the ball in this guy's hand, and he's super tough to bring down. And I think that the development to look at for him is that I think his dad tweeted the other day that he's going to be focusing on defensive end in particular. I think his updated measurables are 6'6", 270. So this is a guy that Oregon definitely wants to get. Similar to a lot of the guys that we've talked about, right? There's no shortage of elite guys, elite programs going after him. I know just because his brother DJ's at Clemson, a lot of people kind of just want to gravitate towards Clemson. I think that, it makes sense. You look at how well Oregon's capitalized on the brother connection in recent years and recent recruiting cycles. But during DJ's recruiting process, Mateo was able to go on a lot of these visits. So he's already been to a lot of, really talented schools. You look at Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama. He's seen a lot of them. So the good thing for Oregon, though, is that they were able to get him on campus last weekend to close out the month of January. So I think that's huge. He was at USC on Saturday before he got out to Oregon. But this is another guy we got to see a picture that his dad tweeted of him in the Ohana uniforms. But look at this guy. I mean, he's just an absolute beast in the trenches. Gets the hit on the quarterback, which is great. He's going to be able to impact the game and the defending the run and the pass. You look at this. I believe that might have been Mason Graham that he just went against, who's a Michigan commit or signee. Let's see. So yeah, that's kind of what we have to say on Mateo. And I think with the trenches being such a priority, I think the Ducks are doing a great job of getting some of those big names on campus. So those are some of the defensive line recruits to watch. We talked about Overton and how he's looking like someone the Ducks are obviously going to go after. Seeing that he listed them in his top 5, you guys think that there's some kind of a mutual interest there, right? And maybe that's the Dan Lanning factor, and we see this being the first really big recruit on defense that the Ducks are able to get. I mean, can we talk about that for a second? I mean, how was anybody expecting Dan Lanning's flip from Georgia to be a running back? I thought that was pretty interesting. He talked about how his previous relationship with Jordan James obviously played a factor, as well as Carlos Lachlan. Really enjoyed what he had to say during the National Signing Day show yesterday. And we're rolling right along. We're going to be in here for about 10 more minutes. So if you guys have some questions, definitely feel free to throw them my way. And I want to talk about another big target for the Ducks here. So I think receiver is undoubtedly a question of need for the Ducks after all the attrition that they saw last year. You look at Micah Pittman transferring to Florida State, and Johnny Johnson the third and Jalen Redd getting season-ending injuries, and then ultimately, obviously, moving on from the program since they don't have any more eligibility. You might be asking yourself, who are we looking at highlights of? And that is wide receiver Jurion Dickey out of Valley Christian High School in San Jose, California. Jurion's originally from East Palo Alto, where the Ducks have Troy Franklin, who's also from East Palo Alto. So I think, you have that connection. He was another guy that was recently on campus for a visit, and I have a write-up if you guys want to go read it. Over on Ducks Digest. He's talking about how great his relationship is with Junior Adams, the new wide receivers coach for Oregon, who's originally from Fremont. So another Bay Area guy. You just got to think about those connections and how that could help the Ducks down the line in the recruiting trail. I first saw Jurion at the opening in Elite 11 last summer, and I was just absolutely blown away by the plays that he was able to make. He's super fast. And I didn't even know about him until I saw him making plays, and I had to look him up, and he was a 2023 guy, and he can really do it all. He's physical, he's fast, he's quick. He can go up and make those big catches. So I think that he's got to be one of the priorities for the Ducks on the recruiting trail in 2023. Let me see what else I can find out about Jurion here, because he's definitely one to watch for the Ducks on the recruiting trail. All right, let me see some of the other top wide receivers in California, some of the top players in California, because when all is said and done, I think Dickey's definitely going to be one of the top guys to watch on the West Coast. Another wide receiver that we could talk about is DeAndre Moore from Los Alamitos. He's teammates with Malachi Nelson. Recently reopened his recruitment from Oklahoma, so we'll see if the Ducks can get involved there. I know they were one of his finalists as we were looking at. Before he committed, I should say, the first time in the recruiting process. All right. Yeah, I wanted to talk about Jonte Cook. I thought, he was a really intriguing prospect to watch. He's at DeSoto High School out in the Dallas area in Texas. I got to watch him when I went out to cover some high school football in Texas, but I think Brian McClendon leaving makes that a little bit harder for the Ducks to get in there. But as far as Jurion Dickey goes, you see him making plays there on defense as well, and he adds added value in the return game. He's actually going up against my high school in this clip right here. So shout out to anyone watching that's from San Jose. Go Bells, class of 16. But yeah, I mean the fact that you have the connection with Junior Adams, obviously talking about how he has a really strong relationship. Dickey talking about how he has a really strong relationship with Junior Adams. That's got to be big. I think also you look at some of the other factors with Jurion. He really likes fishing in the outdoors, and he posted a picture after he came on his Oregon visit saying, anytime I go somewhere, I got to fish. So he's definitely got that in Eugene. The Nike brand is obviously huge. And I think that it'd be great for the Ducks to get back in the Bay Area after getting Troy Franklin, who I obviously just talked about. We're going to see if he can make a big impact this year with the youth needing to step up at wide receiver. I am curious to kind of get some of your guys' thoughts on the wide receiver group that Oregon has in place right now, because I think that was so interesting that we didn't see Oregon get a wide receiver. We haven't seen them get a wide receiver, I should say, since Dan Lanning got hired. Just got to plug in my laptop here. Because that there's wide receivers, whether it be in the 2022 class, in the prep ranks, or in the transfer portal. I feel like there's got to be guys that have been coming to Oregon that wanted to play, but the staff maybe ultimately had to turn them down. I don't know that for a fact, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking is going on with the situation. I wasn't surprised when we saw Yulee, Winston, and James commit yesterday, but that was kind of the the left field or the splash of the surprise that I think that I was kind of keeping an eye out for was if they were going to be able to add a big name wide receiver. You talk about Arlis Boardingham. He's obviously still on the board, and the Ducks are in play for him. So I think with Jurion Dickey here, it's definitely someone to watch for Oregon here. And then we talked about DeAndre Moore being a big guy to keep an eye out, a big target that the Ducks could find themselves going after. I'm trying to see who else to talk about here. Oh yeah, Rashid Williams out of Pittsburgh. We talked a little bit about him earlier in the pod when we were talking about Jaden Rashada. That's one of his teammates at Pittsburgh. I think another guy to keep an eye on is Jaden Greathouse. Maybe we can talk about him as one of our last guys here on the pod. Let's see. I'm gonna get off of that. We got a question from Andrew. Andrew asks, would Boardingham play receiver because of how bad the Ducks need depth? Yeah, from what I was talking to him before I talked to him a while ago, he was saying that Dillingham was kind of laying out the plan for him as far as, if he were to be a Duck, and that would be kind of a flex type of a role, right? It's like a combination of wide receiver and tight end, which is really awesome to think about when you just look at how athletic of a prospect Boardingham is. He can really, he plays linebacker and receiver. Like, what kind of a combination is that? Who does that? I think that kind of speaks to, the type of level of athlete like we saw with Jaden Wayne, him playing on the defensive line and then also playing wide receiver. I think that's big. Just kind of getting those elite athletes. So I think that the Ducks probably would want to have Boardingham at receiver a little bit. Also, I think if I'm Oregon, I really feel comfortable about my depth at tight end, right? You see the two freshmen from last year in Terrence Ferguson and Malika Matavao. I think Ferguson was a little bit more utilized in the passing game than Matavao was, but Matavao came up with some big plays throughout the year. You think about his touchdown catch against Ohio State out there in Columbus. That was big. Spencer Webb is coming back, I believe, for next season. And then I think Ken McCormick's coming back again, too. So definitely a guy that you hope can stay healthy. And Patrick Herbert as well. He's been battling some knee injuries, and he looked, before he got hurt, he looked like he was really putting it all together, and he could have been a playmaker for the Ducks. This is a question or a comment that I saw lately in the chat, just asking about Harbaugh. This question from Christopher: any word on bringing Clemens home if Harbaugh is leaving? I think the latest development that we have on Harbaugh is that he's staying at Michigan. That was obviously a really interesting development, seeing that he interviewed on National Signing Day with the Vikings. I thought that was definitely a head scratcher, and that was immediately one of my thoughts. Right, it was, okay, if I'm Oregon, who are some guys from that Michigan recruiting class that I could potentially go after if they choose to transfer or opt out of their get a release granted by the NCAA for their national letter of intent. I shouldn't have said opted out, but Darius Clemens was easily one of the first guys that I thought about, seeing that the Ducks were in such a great spot to get him. I think I could confidently say that if Cristobal and McClendon didn't leave, I think he would have been a Duck. But the uncertainty around McClendon, we didn't get an answer about that until after the Alamo Bowl. And you got to think that Clemens was a guy who signed early, enrolled early, and that was tough for the Ducks to do anything there, because they didn't have their staff in place, and there was only so much that they could do. Andrew says Clemens will be back in a couple years when Harbaugh does leave. Till then, Hudson, Franklin, Thornton, and Brevard will do nicely. Yeah, I mean the young guys for sure are a reason to be excited about next year. Obviously, going to have to see. I don't know if since Harbaugh's coming back, I'm not sure how realistic it is to talk about Darius Clemens coming over here, but who knows? Let's see. I'm trying to think. And then I was also thinking, just talking about, Michigan, I was thinking about Zeke Berry being a guy that the Ducks would love to get. But, the way that Michigan uses their safeties, I know that was super appealing to him in his recruiting process. And I think Oregon wanted to use him at corner. So just, the fact that he wants to be a true safety, I think is big. He's from the Bay Area, so I'm definitely going to be rooting for that guy. And yeah, Breezy also talking about the wide receivers. Don't forget Crocker. Isaiah Crocker was a guy that flashed late. I think he was from the class of 2018. He came in with Spencer Webb out of Northern California. He was making some plays late in the season for sure, in the Alamo Bowl as well, if I'm remembering correctly. So that's another piece at wide receiver. I think Josh Delgado is another one to watch. I mean, I don't even think we saw him at all last year, so I'm not sure kind of what his status is right now. Hopefully, if he's still here, maybe that's a guy that we can see get involved for the Ducks next year. Lance Wilhoit was another guy, another recruit that came in the 2019 class, I believe, but really haven't seen him play too much. Let's see. Gary, we need a running back and QB next year breakdown. Who to watch? The Ducks are going after. If you go back once this live stream ends, it'll just be a video on my channel. We talked about some of the big names to watch at quarterback and running back for the Ducks in 23. So we covered that. But since we're winding down here, just wanted to let you know where you can find that. Appreciate you being here, Gary. Let's see. Billy's question, do you think Bo Nix will be the starter week 1, or do you think we see a newer face? I think Bo Nix won't be the starter. Curious for your answer. Yeah, I mean, this is no doubt the biggest question for the Ducks in the offseason, right? After you bring in Bo Nix, a lot of people want, we're asking for one of the freshmen to get a shot. Mainly Ty Thompson is someone that a lot of fans want to see get a shot, with him being the highest rated quarterback the program's ever signed. I think you don't want to put too much emphasis on that because, just because you're highly rated doesn't always mean that it works out. But from what I've seen from Ty, he looks incredibly talented. The thing that I like the most about Ty is probably his poise and his, ability to move in the pocket. So I think it makes a lot of sense to, predict that Bo Nix would maybe be the starter in week 1, especially when you're going up against Georgia. But I think I want to wait to see these guys in spring football before I, make a little bit more of an informed decision there. I think for Oregon, I can just, tell you this. I think that sooner or later they're going to have to give their high school quarterbacks, the guys they recruited out of high school, a shot, because I think just on the outside, it's not the best look that you keep turning to. You can't keep turning to transfers, each year, because I think the more that you turn to transfers, I think it probably is turning off some of the high school recruits that you're looking at. I don't think that that's necessarily what's happening right now, but I think that if you just keep bringing in transfers, you kind of wonder from the outside, when are you going to give one of the high school guys they recruited a shot? So I already talked about Ty. I think he's really gifted, and I'd love to see him get a shot. Jay Butterfield might have the best deep ball on the team. He has a really smooth motion. I wonder what people, think, just because he's not, as much of that, modern quarterback with, because we're seeing so many quarterbacks these days, run a lot and extend plays there. But just because you're not super fast or quick doesn't mean you can't extend some plays. And I know that some of his teammates that we were talking to last season had some praise, and we're basically saying just along that line, right? He might not be the fastest guy like AB or Ty or Robbie, how athletic Robbie Ashford was, but he can still extend plays and scoot around when he needs to. So that'll definitely be a question that we're talking about a whole bunch going into next year. Let's see. Gary asks, where will DJ Johnson line up next year? I mean, I guess we're still waiting for an official answer there, but given all the depth that you have at tight end and that you need an edge rusher, I think that you got to have DJ Johnson along the defensive line, right? That guy's super gifted, played defensive line at Miami when he originally came out of high school, played a little bit on both sides this year, which is something that you don't see super often, in college football. But I think that if you bring in Lanning, I feel like that's got to be one of the guys he's most excited to work with is DJ Johnson on that defensive line next year. So I would say that you gotta have DJ Johnson along the defensive line. If I'm Dan Lanning next year, looking at kind of what's going on. Playboy's question is, you think we have a good chance of getting Nicholas Iamaleava? the 5-star QB. Yep, I definitely think that I think they have a really good chance for sure. I don't want to go ahead and put a prediction in or anything because I definitely want to talk to some more sources, maybe talk to Nico himself. But I think getting him on campus, that visit went really well from what we've been able to see. So that's definitely big for the staff to do, early on in the 23 cycle. Steve, thanks for the comment. Lenny is excited to see the Autzen crowd, and the Oregon fans are ready to bring it. Go Ducks. Yeah, I mean, if you saw him at that basketball game, the Oregon State game, when he kind of laid out that speech at halftime, you could tell all the fans in attendance were super fired up, and they're fully bought in. I think I said this yesterday on the live stream. I think what's just so cool about Dan Lanning and the way that he's approached this job is he's just really bought in, right? He's bought into everything that makes Oregon fun, that makes Oregon exciting, that makes Oregon unique. You see him wearing the nice Jordans and the nice Nikes on these visits. So he's buying into the Nike brand. And how could you not? And he's doing Hakas with Dave Yulee on the official visit. He's bringing that energy. That's one of the biggest carryovers that we're seeing from the old staff to the new staff is they still have that energy, and that, they're being genuine, so that they're being raved about for sure. And the Ducks are off to a great start on the recruiting trail with this new staff. Ducks Zone 503, aka Dominic, what's going on, man? Hope you're doing well. Thanks for stopping by to talk some Ducks with us. We're just winding down a little bit, so just wanted to make sure I said what's up. Appreciate you coming by and appreciate the support. Let's see. Andrew's question: does the new OC stick around for a few years or one good year and out? Man, I mean, I don't want to speculate on coaches and them being on the move, especially because it's a new staff. But what I can tell you about Dillingham, that's his name, Kenny Dillingham. He's had success, I feel like, at each of his stops. I think the Florida State quarterbacks were a little bit banged up last year, so it's a little hard to evaluate that too much. But during the signing day event yesterday, he was talking about how when he was growing up watching Oregon, the thing that he loved about Oregon is it wasn't asked how it was Oregon going to score. It was how much Oregon was Oregon going to score. So he's really fired up to really revamp this Oregon offense and be a fast-paced offense and kind of a pro-style offense. So I think that's something to be excited for sure. And you can tell that he's super passionate about the Ducks, and this is definitely a job that I think he couldn't turn down just because of the love that he had for the Ducks and the admiration he had for the Ducks from afar after hearing that. So I think that Dillingham is definitely, locked in with the Ducks. Certainly for this next season. Like I said, I don't want to speculate on any kind of moves coming up down the line, but really, really good to hear him, talk about being fired up and his passion for the Ducks even before he got here as a offensive coordinator. Breezy, thanks for the question. Do you know if Nico's visit was an official or unofficial? And if it wasn't official, do we get another one later this year? I think right now, I don't think the 2023s can take official visits just yet. I think those open up in the spring. So from what I know, it was an unofficial visit. And, as far as official visits, each prospect is allotted 5 official visits. And the only way you can get an extra official visit with a school is if the staff changes. And the head coach leaves, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the deal that we saw with Oregon, right? I think that's a big part of why they were able to get, some of these former commits back in the fold, right? You saw Marion Winston, you saw Dave Yulee come back for official visits under the new staff. So yeah, just 5 official visits for these recruits, unless there's, some major coaching change, like the head coach leaves. So that's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. Gary asking, do we have a shot at Mateo Uiagalelei, edge out of California? I think that the Ducks definitely have a shot there. I talked about him earlier in the video, so definitely go back once this live ends and check out what we had to say about him. But just as we kind of wind down here, I think getting him on campus before the dead period was huge, and got him on campus after he was at USC. And based on what his dad was posting, it looks like the visit went really well. I think that if I'm the Oregon staff, you obviously know what happened with his brother, DJ, how the staff was all in, but they weren't able to get the job done and get him. So with the need at edge rusher and just winning the point of attack on defense, especially the defensive line. Man, Uyunglele Mateo would be a huge Mateo Yu would be a huge addition for this 2023 class. All right, guys, that's all I have for this episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. Really enjoyed getting to answer your guys' questions and comments today. If you're watching on the live stream, do me a big favor and go ahead and hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and also go ahead and hit that notification bell so that you guys don't miss out when I go live in the future. This was a little bit earlier today than we've been doing in the past couple days. I got a birthday dinner to catch with one of my buddies, so had to make sure I go out and celebrate his birthday with him. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and make sure to lock in with us on the other social media platforms. You can see on your screen, I'm on Twitter at mtorresports. We're at Ducks Digest on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And then you can also find us on the Ducks Digest newsletter. That's another really cool way to connect with us. I usually try to send that out daily. It's a free newsletter. So if you go to my Twitter at mtorresports, you can sign up for it there. And then also, last thing I want to plug here, the Ducks Digest forums. Really trying to build the community at Ducks Digest, interact with you guys more, and answer your questions, see what's on your mind. It helps inform our stories, start some great conversations and all of that. That's just ducksdigestforums.com. You guys can go sign up for that. It is completely free, and really trying to get that going. So that's all I have for this episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening, for coming by and supporting the pod. If you're here on YouTube, everyone take care, and we will see you in the next episode.